AI analyzing your self-tapes for gestures, features,
Stop.
and using that to streamline the casting process. AI could analyze a bajillion self-tapes. These are all match our physical specs features.
Yeah.
These are all the intonations and the facial features. And it could, essentially do it in a blink of a second. Now that's insane. Forget about watching self-tapes for 4 seconds. This is this is a whole nother level. All right. Welcome to the Actor's Guide to the End of the World podcast, where we talk about acting in Hollywood and what people understand. I'm Econ Song.
And I'm Rían Kelly. How you doing?
What's up, buddy? Follow us wherever you find your podcasts at Actors Guide Podcast. We're on all social media at Actors Guide Podcast. So we have video on YouTube, on Substack, on all social media at Actors Guide Podcast. All right. We talk a lot about the chaos that is happening with casting networks. We talk about AI in casting, among all things. We talk about some highlights from our Brian Stepanek episode, some things that stuck out to us that resonated. And also, we have a hot Reddit story, the Reddit Rundown. We dive into the best bits of the acting subreddit. It's called the Reddit Rundown, and we have a hot one this week. So you don't want to miss that.
The Reddit
there anything
Rundown
else?
I will say the Reddit Rundown is a working title. We may come up with a better name for it. We could call it Have You Read It? Reddit Rebels. No, that's not going to work.
Speaking of, send us your ideas on titles at actorsguidepodcast@gmail.com.
Now, a word from our sponsor for today's episode. Does your pet get the yips in auditions? Does your little friend literally shit the bed at callbacks?
Welcome to the Royal Academy for Dramatic Barks, where your puppies will be trained by acting legends Ellen Barkin,
Mark Ruffalo,
and Sir Patrick Stewart. Sign up today.
So let's just get into it. We have an amazing show. We haven't done it yet, but I just have a good feeling about it. We have a lot to talk about.
Well, that's this show doomed.
Yeah, I know. That's the kiss of death. So, Brian Stepanek, we had him on last week. It was packed, a lot of wisdom. There's a couple things that I thought were just stuck out to me. So I just wanted to, for our little after party here, we'll start off with that. When he started out his career, he basically said, I'm going to do everything, or at least be open to doing everything. He had a story with his father about how he was about to sign an agent. He said, and his father said, "Well, you should get them to sign you for voiceover too." And so Brian's like, "Yeah, why not? I should be able to. I should just try to do everything." And this idea that um, there was this openness, and he was just an actor who wanted to work. There was no ego. There was no humility. I'm sorry. There was a lot of humility. There was no ego. Uh, he was, a star on the Disney Channel. He made tons of money doing commercials, and he wanted to work. And he has a family and a house.
It's interesting that he started directing musical theater. Like that was, the first kind of thing he had done was direct musical theater, and understood that world and how he translated that into kids TV and beyond. And then also big action movies and Michael Bay films and all kinds of different work. But yeah, bounced around genres and styles and.
Obviously, Lesly Kahn comes into play, and he's able to kind of hone those skills. But I don't know a lot of actors that have been able to do that successfully. Also, it's like also that great story about how his agent told him not to take The Sweet Life of Zach and Cody.
Yeah.
So the role he's most known for, his agents told him not to take it. It's funny because the past few weeks we've been talking about how actors can focus and pick a lane, and according to Brian, he didn't have any ideas of what type of actor he wanted to be. He just wanted to act, and he just wanted to work.
Well, I think that's a good lesson as well. And like you said, there is no one lane. It's really whatever works for you. It's whatever approach helps you to enjoy it the most. And for some people, that's like laser focus. I want this. I want, and take every step they can to get towards that thing. For some people, it's just to work. I see the merit in the different approaches. For me, it's just a combination of a lot of different things. I just pull from different advice I've heard and how people approach it. I really enjoy hearing, and that's a big part of this podcast for me, is like I really enjoy hearing other people's experience, because it helps me sort of figure out what I believe, and I pick up things from people that I then employ, and um
Mhm.
maybe I get to look at something in a different way, and yeah, I find that
Yeah.
really just really interesting. I do think that improv background is so helpful as well, like the Second City background, and sketch and improv. I see that help a lot of actors, and like when I was training at Second City, I was so in awe of people there. I really just funny people and improvisers, when they're good, just blow my mind. It's such a great skill. There's a real joy in that availability to whatever's just coming to you, just listening and taking it on board. Um,
Yeah, that's a great point. So he had musical theater. He obviously was very successful at Second City, and that translates to commercials for sure.
yeah,
So yeah, that's a really good skill to have.
I was just on the listening thing. I just went to a talk with TV director David Nutter, who's has had a
Oh, you
brilliant.
went to that?
Yeah, it was excellent. This
Yeah,
is
well,
at Leslie
that's
Kahn
awesome.
Studio. They invite people in once a month to have a
Awesome.
kind of a Q&A, and David Nutter came back. He's actually been in a little while ago. He was in as well, but he's a really interesting guy, and I loved his take on his career and on directing and how he approaches it. But he worked with Jonathan Pryce he directed Game of Thrones. Just briefly on his resume for
Mhm.
people who aren't familiar
Yeah.
with him, he's directed everything. I mean, he directed an episode of The Sopranos. He directed a bunch of episodes of Game of Thrones. Um, he directed an episode of a few episodes, I think, definitely one episode of The West Wing. He was
Oh
called the
wow.
pilot whisperer because he was so good at directing pilots. But his approach to directing was that
Wow.
he he has to feel it, he said. And he said that early in his career, he wasn't very technically aware. Like, he didn't have a ton of technical knowledge about lighting and cameras necessarily, but what he knew he was good at was he knew how to make people care about something. And so he goes, there has to have heart in it, and it shows when he described the things. Like, he directed the X-Files, and he's just had an incredible career. But he was working with the actor Jonathan Pryce, British actor, who's phenomenal, like one of the best actors around
Yeah, it's great.
for a long time. And he said he wanted to compliment him, but he didn't want to, you don't want to come across as like a sort of a fanboy or anything, because they were working together. But he said the compliment he gave him was, he said, "You're the best listener I've ever seen on film," and which is incredible. And that is such a skill. I mean, you can see when an actor is really listening, and it's a good
Mhm,
reminder to
mhm.
me, because you know all of the elements of this are really important, I find, and listening is so important in acting. Like, and it's an
Yeah.
easy thing to
Yeah.
forget because it seems so obvious and trite, but
Yeah.
it's yeah, I thought that was a beautiful compliment and a way of looking at it.
Not only is it easy to forget, I think it's harder to do even in our day and age with all the distractions and all those things. I mean, if you're walking around, I think a lot of people are just not listening in general.
Yeah, yeah.
Forget about it. Acting, it's literally our job and we still forget. Um, so David Nutter is primarily a director.
Yeah.
He's also not a writer.
No,
He's not a
director.
writer.
No, I don't think so.
So yeah, that's quite a career. I'm jealous of you guys. That it sounds like a great talk. So a big time director comes in and talks to a room full of actors. Like, was there kind of like an overarching? Was he kind of just telling stories about his how what he looks for and what he about his life, or what was
No, it
the?
was there wasn't any, he came in and then he just gave a little bit of his background, here's a little bit about
Mhm.
me, here's where I started. And then people just asked him questions. And I think because of the way he started, people asked him questions. It wasn't so much about specific projects or how do I get this. It was more about his approach to directing, which was really, I just thought it was a really brilliant way of approaching directing. I mean, it's all, you know, he told us about his first film was about, Vietnam and Vietnam vets and the trauma that had inflicted on them. And, he talked about his own life and his own career, but it was more about the why of, you
Mm,
know, of like why he does what he does and how he approaches it. And it was a really insightful kind of a talk that didn't
wow.
feel at all like anybody was trying to sell themselves to him. You know what I mean? It was a very organic kind of a chat where people were just asking how, where do you think that came from? Or, the heart that you talk about, like, how do you approach what sells a script for you when he gets approached with a project? Like, what is it that makes the final decision? And he has to feel it. It was just he's a remarkable guy. And at the moment he's working with a group of Norwegian actors who've come over for a few weeks, and he's doing like a showcase with them where he's rehearsing scenes with them. So it was really cool to meet them as well. And
Oh,
like
they
they kept
actually
coming
showed
up
up.
to me
They actually
going,
showed up to the thing.
yeah, they were there.
They
Yeah,
actually
yeah.
showed up to the town. Oh wow.
Yeah. I'm gonna go see their performance tomorrow,
Yeah, I saw that
actually.
email. I saw that
Yeah.
email. That's awesome. That sounds like a lot of
But
fun.
they kept coming up to me going, "You're the Irish guy," and I was like, "Yeah," like I was like, because they're doing scenes from some Irish stuff and some like a Martin McDonagh play, and I think one of and the Banshees of
Oh,
Inisherin as
that's
well.
great.
So they were like kind of fascinated that I was Irish and like a little bit nervous of doing the accent and stuff. So, but they were
You're
lovely.
kind
They
of a
were
big deal. You're kind of a big deal.
at times, yeah, depending on very specific context. But sorry, that was a bit of a tangent there, but just
No, 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 that's good. Well, let's talk about that. Um, so this whole thing about the feeling stuff, um, it's interesting. We don't need to spend too much time on it because it's so subjective and kind of theoretical. But uh, I think it speaks to that deeper reason why that you were talking about. That I think us as actors and I guess artists in general need to kind of hone. Because if a director says, "Well, I'm always figuring out what the audience is feeling," it's us as actors, how do we actually do that? You know what I mean? It's like we want to get away from how we feel, as we often talk about at the studio. It's not about how the actor feels, it's about how the audience feels. It's about how we're making the audience feel in our performance and our listening as well. You know what I mean? So
yeah,
I'm just kind of it's just interesting with when you have a bunch of actors hear that from a director, that's great and all, but I think where the real craft is how do we actually start executing and being able to hone those skills in our performance. You know what I mean?
yeah, absolutely. I think that's why it's valuable to hear other people's like in other jobs, like their take on things, because it can get it can get a bit myopic. I think when you're just talking to actors about acting, like there are it's interesting to hear what other people look for as well, or how they do their jobs, like the way he directs. He said he never yells because he doesn't need to. He's like, that's not his style.
Mhm.
And one thing I thought he said, which was brilliant, he's like, it was just something that he'd heard early on when he started directing. He goes, I heard early on a piece of advice that someone gave him was to treat adults like kids and treat kids like adults when you're directing them, which is very interesting. I don't know if he stuck to that, but like that was just some advice that he had heard.
That's great advice.
I think it is. Yeah,
Wow.
yeah.
All right. So any other things from David Nutter?
No, it was just a really brilliant chat. It was just really great to hear his experience. He did talk about specific shows as well, which I was like really interested in, because I like The West Wing and Sopranos are two of my favorite shows, and it was really great to hear his experience of that, and
Right.
his experience with David Chase, who ran Sopranos. David Chase stayed very close to the show the whole time. I mean, I think he kept um, a pretty close control over the whole thing, and it shaped it. Like, and it shows, I think, because the themes that follow through Sopranos, like, it feels like a very cohesive show all the way through. There's arcs through
Right.
seasons, and there's arcs through the whole series, and there's themes that come up again and again. Um, so he's the guy. Like, as far as Sopranos went, he was the guy, and his experience with him was really good. And I said, what was it like dropping into a show that was so well established? He directed the episode where Tony's been shot and he's in a coma, and in the coma he has this kind of coma dream where he's another person. He's like a salesman, and he's
Mhm.
lost his briefcase, and it's a really cool episode. But he directed that. But talking about dropping into that, and he said he was nervous going in because like this is such a great show, and
Wow.
yeah, and then the
Well,
West
I'm
Wing.
looking at it. That was well. Hold on. I'm looking at it. That was 6 seasons. So he's literally dropping in for one episode in the 6th season. That's
Yeah,
insane.
in one of the
I
one of the
just
greatest shows of all time. And then the West Wing, he was talking about doing the walk and talks and like bumping into furniture. So because it's so, you know what I mean, it's such a style. And he said Alison Janney was great, and they
Mhm.
just, I don't know, he's just had a wonderful, wonderful career, and he's so um his perspective on it. He was so grateful for the career that he's had, and talked about how fortunate he's been, and yeah, just a really wonderful guy.
Well, that's cool. Okay.
Yeah,
Well, let us know next week how the performance goes with all the Norwegians.
absolutely.
He brought them all over to LA. That's crazy. I hope they brought their sunblock.
Yeah, I mean they're all going around and they're meeting with because he knows everybody too. So they've met with a load of
Of
people and they're
course.
going to groundlings and they're doing all the LA things. It's a short trip, but they're really getting a great view of LA. They're getting an overview.
One last thing about Brian Stepanek. Um, we talked about how he, didn't hold on to anything too uh tightly, but the fact that how open-minded he was when he started his podcast is just this idea that, hey, obviously he's a long-standing teacher, he's a great actor, he had a lot of, wisdom to pass on, and he just felt like this is the way that I can kind of help the younger generation. uh, they might be struggling, and this is a way for him to pass on the wisdom and teaching.
Mm,
And I think that's, you know, that's that's looking ahead, embracing social media. He talked about embracing TikTok, and he's not above anything. And
no,
I
absolutely,
thought
yeah,
it
yeah.
showed a lot of good sense because hey, he's looking to see how this industry turns and is ready to pivot just like anyone else. And I it really resonated with me because way back when we first started doing our podcast, I had that revelation a long time ago. We talked about it before when I embraced, creating my own stuff,
Mm,
social media, starting to do YouTube. A really wise friend basically said to me, and I was shocked when she said it. She goes, "This is how young people are going to learn. Podcasting, YouTube, maybe you can throw in social media there, but that can scare a lot of people, but here we are, and it's not looking to change anytime soon." I thought he was on point, and if I'm going to trust anybody, I would trust Brian for sure.
yeah, absolutely.
So enough for the fun stuff. This is the word around town. Since last we spoke to all you guys, it just so happened there's a lot that happened in the actors community. You guys probably have heard online. There's a lot going on with casting networks. New changes have been announced, and in my humble opinion, it could be devastating for the middle class actor. They are going to start charging agents and managers. They are going to start charging agents and managers fees. They just decided agents and managers are going to be charged more the bigger their
Their
roster list
roster,
is,
yeah, yeah,
meaning that it behooves them to pay less by cutting and trimming their rosters. It just makes sense. And why would an agent take a flyer on a new talent when they're like, okay, I got to worry about my actors right now, and a lot of them aren't working, and then on top of it, the more actors I bring on, I'm going to pay more fees, which I
yeah,
haven't for the 15 years.
yeah,
So, needless to say, the industry is getting tight, and this is an insane time for that to happen, and here we go. So I think it's a huge blow to the middle class actor who is going to be working more commercials, which are on casting networks. It is owned by Talent Services, actually Talent Systems, which owns Spotlight in the UK. So all our friends across the pond, these changes very well could be coming over to them. First of all the agents and managers freaked out. There was a huge petition that was going around. A week ago, there was 4,000. There was basically 4,000 signatures in, I don't know, 3 or 4 days. the word was getting around. People were flooding casting networks, canceling accounts. I was, checking in with my agent. I was like, hey,
Mm.
just checking in. I heard how it's going. And, you know, uh, at that time, these changes were supposedly pushed to January. So, we can talk about social media and all that stuff, and maybe even this podcast. Hey, does this do any good? Getting the word around, it's kind of amazing because it sometimes works. They pushed the fees to January. My agent said, "Hey, just so you know, I know a lot of people are canceling their accounts. Don't do anything rash yet. We're busy negotiating."
Yeah, I think there's a couple of issues here. One is, I think one is systemic. So one is just the model of
Agreed.
no, sorry, but yeah, but like one is the model of exponential growth, which we've seen is the problem with streaming services as well, or one of the problems with streaming services is that you can only get so many subscribers. So when you have shareholders that you're trying to, increase the value of, you're trying to increase the value for them of your company, like talent systems, where do you go? Because there's only so many actors that can pay subscription fees. So then you look to show growth, you have to go to the next logical step, which for them is agents. So that's part of the problem, because like when you run this type of system, that's a for-profit system, which people are, required to be a part of in order to get work. There's only so much, you can only mine actors for so much. And also like actors tend to make the least in this industry of anybody, by and large. So that's an issue. Like the model itself is kind of flawed, because how do you keep making money if how do you show growth? So that's one issue. Two, the only power we have against those systems is collective bargaining, and it's gotten to the point now where there are so many different casting sites now. Talent systems own 4 or 5 of them. So you're paying a lot of different or you could be paying a lot of different subscriptions to the same company. And then also you've Actors Access on the other side for theatrical stuff.
Yeah.
But there is an uproar about it now that agents are being charged. There has been
Which is
rumors.
ironic.
Right.
Well, which is ironic because, also, you're completely right. Actors Access has already been charging agents and managers already anyway.
Yeah.
The model and the tiers were different, but they were already being charged. So, and then on top of it, this uproar. And here's the thing. Obviously, I totally forgot the bright side. The bright side is hey, we're all kind of banding together, agents, actors, managers, and so on. And a lot of people are leaving casting networks for a different website right now. Apparently, a lot of people are moving to casting.com, but it's just funny how
Yeah.
we were uproaring for years, yet now there's a
Well,
petition
yeah.
and there's some movement.
I mean, to be fair, there has been, and my agents, my reps have always been great about it. Like they've put out
Well,
messages
that's
about
good.
casting networks for a long time and saying, please don't. For a long time, my theatrical agency was, we were sending videos to them and they would upload them. So we didn't, as actors, didn't have to pay subscription fees, because they understand how unfair that is, and
Wait, that was in America?
yeah, here,
In
yeah.
America?
Yeah. So
Oh.
they understood for a long time how difficult this makes life for actors, because there are so many costs involved in just staying in the game.
Yeah.
Casting websites, headshots, classes, everything costs. You know what I mean? Everything costs money, and if you're not working, all of that money is just going out, and you're using. A lot of people are using a side job to support that money to stay in acting when it's mostly outgoing and not incoming. Not income,
100%.
rather.
Yeah.
But my agents have always been very mindful of that, and they understand that pricing system is very tough on actors, and it has
Yeah.
gone up. It went up again recently. Like Casting Networks has increased their fees a few times over the years, and that was some of the issue with the Actors Access terms of service, because I know there are a number of class action lawsuits against talent systems.
Yeah. We have that one.
Yeah.
Mhm.
So, it's a system that's not sustainable. I think that model of like, we pay all of this money out, because I'm a member of Spotlight too. So I have to be a member of Spotlight if I want to work in Ireland and the UK. That's
Oh,
kind of
so
part of the
so
deal.
you're on Spotlight.
Yeah. I pay a Spotlight membership as well as Actors
Mhm.
Access and whatever else. But when you add this all up, it's like it's a very expensive. It's just it feels very unfair, and I don't think charging agents is fair either. You know what I mean? Like there has to be a
Yeah,
better
of course.
way for this to operate. And I understand there are costs involved in all of this, and they are a private company that has taken this on. The problem with that is like there's no other way. You don't have an option really. You have to use
Yeah,
these
exactly.
websites. So they have a kind of a monopoly
Monopoly.
on. Yeah, if you want to
Well,
be if you want to be
that's
in
the
commercials,
point.
you got
We
to be
have
a member.
casting.com. Yeah, we
Yeah.
have casting.com that's finally coming up as an option. And also this is another talking point. A lot of the actors keep harping on iActor. iActor was a website that SAG-AFTRA was in the works of trying to get up and running.
Hmm.
100%. We've talked about this enough, and unfortunately, they don't have the money to get it to be effectively run.
Yeah.
They're already short staffed and they have too many other things to worry about. And to get a site that's actually comparable is not in the ballpark, but that is a big point of contention that hey, we wanted our own site, we wanted our own database. It's not even mediocre. It's actually way below mediocre. So that's one thing.
Yeah.
This might be the push to get to casting.com. Casting.com is going to be a lot more friendly with fees, we hope. For those who might be wondering, financier Redbird Capital, they took over Talent Systems 3, 4 years ago. They're a big player. They were dealing with the Paramount Skydance merger. They got big pockets, and they also are funding Ben Affleck and Matt Damon's production company. So they
Okay.
were heavily in Hollywood, and this dude is the Redbird Capital's they're really going for it. They're really going for it.
Yeah, and
Um,
look, like there of course is costs involved in this. I understand. I'm not saying that like everything should be free all the time to everybody. I understand
Mm.
there are costs involved in these systems and
Yeah.
servers and upkeep of websites and everything else. It's just when you own a number of different casting websites and then we're sort of required to be a member of each of them, what's that about? You know what I mean? Well then,
Yeah. Yeah.
then you're just preying on people who don't really have another option. You're like, well, you could be a
Yeah.
member of Casting Frontier or, Casted Talent or whatever. Like, you can't, you can't just have all of it. You can't be firing out
Mhm.
hundreds of dollars every month to be a member of
Yeah.
like 6 different
Yeah.
casting websites just to get a shot
Mhm.
at the same
Mhm.
jobs you would have if there were one. You know what I
Yeah.
mean?
So moving on, there's actually it actually gets better. It gets better. Tempted to play clown music, just circus music, just to lighten this up. It's like I'm gonna put that in.
Maybe you
I
could
don't
just
know
do
how
that.
long they'll play.
Maybe you could just
Yeah,
sing it.
exactly. You saw this video. There was this video circulating. This is part of a bigger design. Casting Networks has been incorporating AI tools, and I'm actually friends with the guy who did this video. It was really circulating. I think you saw it. A bunch of us people were sending it to me. He was kind of going into this thing about how agents and managers are kind of like just collateral. They're fine with agents and managers possibly leaving the site because the end goal is that uh, AI will be casting, and it will be a direct link to
Yes.
actors and brands.
Which is
So
really
there's a
scary.
couple
I mean,
things
this is
about
the
this.
scariest part of all of
Yeah,
this, is that
yeah,
they would cut out,
yeah,
agents and use AI and
exactly,
then
exactly. So eventually they'll get some money from agents and managers, and then they'll push them out, and maybe there's no agents and managers. We love you, agents and managers, but hypothetically, casting networks might not even want you. And so if there's a bunch of actors who are willing to subscribe and hungry to work, then they would pay a subscription to get direct casting to brands and then just use AI as a funnel into their projects. Now, I will say, I saw a lot of people share this video. I'm friends with Jeff. Who knows? Depending on where this goes, we actually might eventually have him on because he's actually the chair of the Hollywood communications committee for SAG-AFTRA. So
okay.
he shared this video, and this is not a knock against him. I never saw the story of the CEO of Casting Networks actively saying this was the plan is to eliminate casting directors and use AI.
I'd be
There
surprised
was
if he did say that. I mean, that'd be a
I know
crazy
exactly.
fucking
So
thing
that's
to
kind of
say.
like my point. So to be fair, because obviously I share a lot of these things online. Um, I most of my videos are mostly things that I know for sure and have evidence of. And I'm
Yeah.
not knocking Jeff. I just couldn't find it for myself because it sparked a lot of fear. This plan, I wasn't sure if he was speculating, but
Mm.
I personally did not see that story. So I want everyone to essentially stop freaking the fuck out. That being said, it is an interesting story, and it's something that we should keep an eye on because it is true that there are sites using AI to help cast. There are
I bet.
services like that. So just imagine, because when I read it, I was like, oh my God, I can't believe this is real. Uh, there is the possibility of AI analyzing your self tapes for gestures, features,
Stop.
and using that to streamline the casting process. Now, it's not a far stretch that casting networks will start incorporating these tools. They'll get get your feet a little wet and get you used to using the tools. You're like, oh, isn't this nice how your job is so much easier now that you can, use the casting, these AI tools to streamline it. AI could analyze a bajillion self tapes. Okay, these are all match our physical specs features.
Yeah.
These are all the intonations and the facial features, and it could, essentially do it in the blink of a second. Now that's insane. And forget about watching self tapes for 4 seconds. This is this is a whole nother level.
Yeah.
This is a whole nother level. So that very well could happen. So here we are, locked in arms with our casting director friends, agents, managers, and hoping that humans still are in our business.
I swear to God, the more I hear about AI, the fucking less I want anything to do with it at all. It seems to be, every time I hear it, I'm like, the bad seems to far outweigh the good of it. And I know there are good applications of it, but my God, is it sucking the life out of everything at the moment.
I know, I know, I know.
Not to be pessimistic or negative, but Christ, I'm just so sick of hearing about it. Like, every time I hear of it in connection to something, I think, well, there's somebody's job gone. You know what I mean? That's the first thing that comes into my head. I'm like, all right, well, that's somebody's job that doesn't exist. Yeah, just the automation of everything. This is just a general note, but like the automation, even when you go to the airport and like there's all these kiosks and you check your bag, and then there's one person instead of people on the desk checking people in. There's just like one person watching everybody's bag. Like, it's just everything's getting more and more and more and more automated and less personal and less flexible as a result, because there
I
is
got a
nowhere to
theory
go.
for you. I got theory. I know that you had your run-ins with those little Waymo food bots or whatever. But what I go to a
Man,
restaurant every so often in Philly, and they have a robot busser. They have a busser
yeah,
to takes it holds the brings out the dishes and how holds the plates, and you see them around, right?
yeah,
I'm not gonna lie, they have a couple servers there that's been working there forever. I think their service, the humans, got worse as the robots got in. Like, I think they're checked out. I think they're checked out. I think the service got worse when
yeah,
they got this robot help.
huh?
And I don't know. It might be an indication for the the rest of society when we start
Yeah.
going to get automated and robotified.
I
Um,
went to a Lakers game downtown a couple of weeks ago, and I was pulling into the car park.
Look at
The
you,
park.
Jack Nicholson.
Yeah, I know, dude. My pal Amy was in town from Sydney. A friend of mine from school, from high school, secondary school. But I was pulling into the car
Nice.
park, and there was like a robot thing in front of me that was blocking the way, and I don't know what the purpose of it was. It was like a little robot security guard or something. I couldn't. It was like moving around in the driveway. I was like, "What the fuck is this thing?" And it wouldn't get out of the way, and eventually it sort of moved off to the side. But like,
Wow.
we are living in the future that we saw, you know
Mm,
what I mean? As there's robots
yeah.
buzzing around all over the place. I mean, more and more. Drive Waymos
Yeah.
still freak me out. I like every time I see a Waymo,
I
I
know.
look in the driver's seat and the passenger seat, and there's 2 seats there and a steering wheel and nobody in it. I'm like, this is bananas. How are we here? It's just very off-putting. I also don't trust him to not, like, I'm very cautious when I'm doing anything around a Waymo because I'm like, I don't know if I trust this. Not
I
to
think that's
trust
fair.
everybody on the road either, but like, I'm like, this thing,
Yeah.
this thing glitches out.
So, needless to say, it's going to get tight. It's going to get a little tight around during the holidays in our industry, but you can trust us. We're going to have eyes on it. And actually, the one thing, and I'm not joking when I say this. If you have a good agent, this is the time when you have a good agent. Thank your lucky stars. Send them a love, give them a hug. Um, I don't want to get too sentimental here, but yeah, if you have a great agent, be
I do.
very, very happy
I have a
and
wonderful
grateful
agent.
because they're not. I mean, it's tricky. Oh, actually, I want to throw this out there. So this is a bright spot. We just got news. More word around town. We just got news that there are many, many projects coming to Los Angeles. One, namely, Heat 2. Michael
Ooh.
Mann is bringing back Heat 2, shooting in LA. We got a Jumanji film. We got Bill Murray projects, the Daniels movies. We got this all just got announced. They got more movies, more films and projects coming into California. So that is a bright spot and keep trucking along.
And on the good news train, I just want to give a shout out. The Rainmaker was renewed for season 2, which is huge
Oh,
for everybody involved.
are you serious?
Yeah, which is
I
brilliant.
didn't know that.
USA
When was that
Network.
announced?
This is a show that I was involved in last year, which just finished airing, but they got renewed for season 2. So that's great
That's
news for
amazing.
everybody. Michael Seitzman, the showrunner, and all the cast, Milo and Lana and PJ Byrne, and
Dude, congrats, man. You
yeah.
got it. Breaking news. This is as of yesterday of us recording this.
So congratulations to everybody involved. I'm thrilled for everybody. I just, it's great to see it come out and do so well and get renewed. So just on the theme of agents, I browsed the acting subreddit.
The Reddit rundown.
Yeah, Econ's really proud of that when he came up with that earlier. Already read it. Shit names aside. So I read this post this morning, which I thought was very interesting because, people talk about, actors talk about reps a lot. They talk about agents a lot and changing reps and getting reps. But what I saw this morning was a post from an actor, and I went back down through the post to kind of gather a bit more information. But basically, the title is, I cold submitted to 60 talent agencies listed in the IMDb Top 1000. So these would be the top talent agencies in the US and some of them in the world. Some of them would be international, but they'd be pretty, in a lot of people's eyes, unapproachable agencies. But so out of the 60 submissions, and basically this actor, he sent a very basic email, which is basically, here's my stuff. I'd love to hear more from you. But he sent his headshots, his IMDb Pro, and his resume. And out of the 60 submissions, 9 agencies responded, which is quite a high number. 2 asked for self-tapes, 1 passed and 1 scheduled a Zoom and later offered representation. 2 asked for Zoom meetings, both offered representation. 1 requested an in-person meeting and also offered representation. 1 requested more materials, then ghosted. 3 replied, but lagged on replying, felt iffy and didn't move forward. So out of 51 agencies did not respond at all, but he got 9 responses, which is pretty good. So 60 emails sent, no response from 51, got 9 replies, and 4 agencies offered representation from cold submissions. Those are pretty good numbers, to be honest. And to send
terrific numbers.
To send 60 emails is not that hard. It sounds like a lot of emails, but it's not that hard because you're basically sending the same thing. You're just personalizing to every person, going, "Hey, here I am." He actually put the text of his email, which is, I think, a lot of people would be interested in, because that's a lot of people don't know how much to say or how much personality do they put in, how long is it, but he kept it short, which I think is sort of instrumental.
Yeah, go ahead. Go ahead, read that.
He said it was a version of this. My name is blank. I am an actor living in whatever market he's in. I don't know. I am seeking either commercial or theatrical representation. I have included links to my work. Thank you for your time. And then the links. And that was it. That's a really straightforward, very simple email, because there's a tendency to feel like you need to ask in a certain way, or sort of disguise it as something else as well, when it's not. Everybody knows what a submission is. They understand it. You understand it. I'm submitting my work to you, obviously, to talk about representation. Here it is. Thanks for your time. And that, I think,
Yeah.
that simplicity would serve actors if they are approaching agencies. You don't have to, put a load of flowers around it to kind of make it seem more palatable. It's at the end of the day, they know what you're doing. Now, maybe some agents feel differently about that, and I'd love to hear people's take on it. But
I thought it was very interesting how um, stripped down and simple this email was. There's no like these. A lot of people are trying to crack, showing their personality, trying to stand out on a cold email, which is almost impossible. A lot of people are referral only, so this is
absolutely,
his results are amazing. Anyway, I just want to put that because pretty shocked because I try to be pretty simple with my emails, but
yeah,
that's way less personality that even I have than than I would have assumed
I
would be
agree.
successful. So
I
that's
agree.
notable.
It was. I'd not. I haven't seen that. I haven't seen it put that stripped down before. But it was interesting that
Mhm.
that got responses. And it speaks to kind of
Exactly.
the amount of time that people have to spend to read these emails, if they even read them. Um, you're being respectful of their time too. And I guess if you have a decent body work. Now, this actor, I will just say a couple of things about this actor. He
Yeah, let's get
described,
into that.
he's a male, 25 to 35. His ethnic background, he's Cuban, he said, but looks Caucasian. So that's just to give you male, 25 to 35, Cuban heritage, looks Caucasian. That's what he has said about himself and his demographic, because people did ask. So, um,
And
you know,
people also asked about his credits. So
yeah,
let's just give a picture here. People
yeah,
asked about his credits. He has a couple co-stars, and he
and a guest star.
just did a guest star, and this was before the pandemic. So he's newish enough, but not, but still, you know, building talent, a new talent.
Yeah, absolutely. But before the pandemic is a while ago. That's to get that kind of response from credits that are like 2019 and back. That's pretty good, and it
Yeah,
speaks
yeah.
to. I think there's an assumption in a lot of people, because I've been guilty of this, as well, where I feel like people don't want to hear from me. You know what I mean? I feel like, and that's maybe partly a cultural thing as well. It might be, there's a bit of an Irish aspect of that, where
So you started a podcast.
I started a podcast, so I wouldn't shut the fuck up, so people have no choice but to listen to me every week. Um, but there's a thing about, I don't want to bother people. There's a kind of an attitude. I know it'll be fine. I don't want to bother them. I'll leave them alone. It's culturally not that acceptable or celebrated in Ireland to, like, you to big yourself up or brag about yourself. You know what I mean? It's just not that kind of culture. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
The
tall poppy
tendency,
syndrome.
yeah, like that Australian concept of tall poppy syndrome. A little bit of that, but also slightly different in that, like, I know, I'll just leave them alone, or the tendency is towards, like, humility to a fault. You know what I mean? Where it's sort of like overly overly humble, or I don't want to. No, I wouldn't say anything. I don't want to brag about anything, but so
Mm.
there's some of that
Yeah.
I still have to deal with every so often in myself, where I have to go, just fucking, life is too short. Just contact people. You're also doing them a favor. Like, if you believe in yourself, you're
Mhm,
offering value
mhm.
to them as well. It's not like it's a one-sided favor. Oh, we'll take you on as a favor to you. It's not about that at all. Here's a working relationship. You know what I mean? This
Yeah,
is what I bring. If that's something that, you think will bring value to you and to your agency, great. Let's work together. So I have to
yeah.
take some of the emotion out of it.
I will add, I think that's is great, and this is to juxtapose. Part of the reason why we want to talk about this is as bleak as it might be on casting networks. Here we go with a great response. This is a current, recent story, and this guy got commercial representation. This guy got representation from being bold. And I will add about this whole thing about putting yourself out there. There's nothing. This is the lowest bar. Is sending a cold email. Like, that is the lowest bar of putting yourself out there. You know what I mean?
It
Like,
is, but
back
it's
in the
very difficult
day,
for people.
No,
mentally
I
it's
know
very
that.
difficult.
I I don't want to disrespect it. I'm just putting in perspective.
I know, I get what
Um,
you're saying. Yes.
versus back in the day, I literally, and I'm scared to do it now. A lot of people say you got to get on the phone, get on the phone. A lot of people are making cold phone calls.
Oof.
And I remember back in the day, I would make a cold phone call to an agent. I would be so stuttering. I would be sweating bullets. And I can't even verbatim repeat it to you. I have had the most embarrassing cold phone calls. You would have thought it was out of a TV show. And my point
I
is
wish you had
once I
recordings of
got
them.
into that, once I got into that, like cold email, dude, I'll blast it all day. Dude, it's like I'm celebrating these cold emails. Anyway, so to wrap up, to just iron out, did you mention that whole talent link? Did you mention the fact that
So I
the
haven't
talent
gotten to
link?
that part yet. So there's a thing called Talent Link, which you can do through Actors Access, where basically I think you pay a small fee, and then they will submit to agents on your behalf, or maybe you submit through them. I don't know exactly how it works. I used a similar one a few years back, where a similar type of thing where you
Mhm.
send emails out to a bunch of casting directors, or sorry, not agents rather. Um, so through Talent Link, you can do this as well. So he also, after he had done these code submissions, submitted through Talent Link, and through that, 6 agencies offered him representation. 2 were across the board representation, and 4 were commercial only. What was interesting about it was 2 of the agencies that hadn't responded to his cold emails did respond through
Mm.
Talent Link. So maybe that's another way to do it. But
I think that's great. I think that's great to
I think
know.
it's great, because I think it's all valid. They're all valid ways of, but the fact that he did both and had a sort of a comparison, but also got a response from the cold emails.
It's great to know that Talent Link, hey, it works for some people. Email us actorsguidepodcast@gmail if if you have stories about this. Some people have success on Talent Link, and it also goes to show you, we don't know if they even opened up these emails. Maybe he got the wrong email. Maybe he got the wrong assistant. Maybe the assistant was snoozing that day. So there, it goes to show you that sometimes emails not reliable, and we don't know about that part of the story. So it's not the fact that Talent Link
Yeah,
was more successful; it's the fact that someone didn't get his email. One thing I will add, and I will be careful the way I say this, because as an ethnic actor, I know a lot of people will be like, "Oh, well, you got advantages because you're Asian," because I've been hearing that all like everyone
oh
who's
really?
ethnic hears that all the time.
Okay.
And so the point is uh I can say that his type, 25 to 34, young, we didn't see his headshot, uh Cuban, but also looks Caucasian. That's kind of a great look that would fit on a lot of rosters. I know some actors are thinking about that, and I'm just throwing that out there where, we try to be as objective with these numbers as possible, yet we needed all this information. And part of the reason why we're doing this post is because we got so much information, and it shows a really good insight into, hey, uh, uh, this is what this guy did, and it was successful, even despite how tight our industry is right now. So,
Absolutely. I think it's just he's not offering any advice. He's just giving his experience. He's like, this is what I
yeah,
did. This is what happened. So I think there's a lesson, no matter, and there's roles for everybody. You know what I mean? There's roles for every type.
as long as you're not white.
I'm still getting roles, man. I'm still getting roles.
I was just seeing if you would get that one.
No, but like
And it's gonna be
there,
oh,
I would not let
that's
that.
gonna stay in the podcast. That's gonna stay in the podcast.
Yeah, oh, of course.
Um,
But people get so upset about this stuff. People get very passionate about it. And I'm like, guys, just fucking relax. Just-
well, I think we all need to kumbaya and hold hands. Hold hands. We're gonna get through this together. Find an agent manager, hold their hand, give them a hug, a casting director. We're gonna
don't do
get through
that.
this
Don't do
together.
that. You know what? Don't call the email casting directors. Don't hold their hands. Uh, yeah. But it's a testament to just putting yourself out there, and really just not worrying about how it comes back. Like there's something
Yeah, I
brilliant
think it's
about
great.
that. Especially at a
Great.
time when like a lot of people are just there's a lot of pessimism, and people are like, oh, we're all the industry's in a terrible state, and maybe it is and maybe it isn't, but it just is what it is right now. You know what I mean? Like you
Exactly.
can't change the industry, so all you can control is your reaction to it, or the actions that you take or don't take.
Yeah,
And to a certain
that's right.
degree, your attitude. You know what I mean? You can control your attitude towards it too. So I don't know. I like hearing sort of success stories from actions like that. You're like, okay, great, good for you. You know, I will say, just be respectful of people's time. You know, don't be. You don't have to be pushy. You don't have to be. Um, just don't be a dick, and be polite
Yeah,
and
it's the
understand that
age
people
old.
have.
We're gonna get done on hats. That's
Yeah,
gonna be our
yeah.
tagline.
Don't
Don't
be a
be a
dick.
dick.
Yeah, just be sound. Just be sound, guys.
Let's do hidden gems. Let me knock mine out. It was recent. It was fun. I'm in New York, and my sister had tickets to the NYC. Well, the New York Ferry. The New York Ferry is essentially a slower transport. Instead of taking a stuffed subway train, you could just hop a ferry. You're in the gorgeous Hudson River. Don't drink it, but you're in the gorgeous Hudson River. I caught sunset, beautiful skylines, landscapes. I had a great time. One ticket is 450. You could buy a bunch and they're,
Oh, that's cheap.
you could buy a pack and they're 290, but it's not a bad ride. And then free transfers for 2 hours.
That's
I was
amazing.
having a ball. My office was the New York, sorry. Yeah.
I will say in
So,
Chicago, the
yeah,
water taxi is very similar. You can take the water taxi up to Chicago River,
I
and
have done that.
it's
I
brilliant.
have
You can
done
take it
that.
from Navy Pier all the way up, like it's class. So I love that. I
Yeah,
love that the
yeah.
ferry on the Hudson.
So
She's
it's a fun,
450 is great.
cheap, yeah, fun, cheap little boat ride. Enjoy yourself. So that's my hidden gem.
Great hidden gem. Mine is a very special one. It is a film which is out now on Tubi as of today called Glamping, written by
Oh,
Rosemary Adisi, who's a phenomenal, just a wonderful person and a really great writer. She wrote this as a short film. She wrote this and made it as a short, submitted it to Tubi as part of a competition, and won the whole thing. And it has been made into a feature.
wow.
There are some people from Lesly Kahn involved in it too. I had the pleasure of meeting Rosie and as she was prepping the film and stuff, and she's just a joy to be around, and like she's a great writer, she's a great actor, she just has a great approach, she's very positive, and it's so cool to see this get turned into a movie, which is being produced by Tubi, I believe. I think Issa Rae is a producer on it as well. It's like it's turned into
Oh,
a
well,
big
that's
film.
huge.
I
Issa
believe
Rae's
the
a great
budget that
name.
they initially offered, they increased it. So yeah,
Wow.
so the movie is called Glamping. It's out now on Tubi. Um, Written by Rosemary. She's also in the movie, and I'm really excited for it. It's like a horror. It's like a kind of a fun horror movie that has like sort of echoes of the early '90s kind of teen horror movies, which are really fun. It's great. It's great.
There you go. All right. Well, that's our show. Have a great week. We'll be back next time. Hope you
All right.
enjoyed it.
See you next week.